Good morning, my beloved. It is 7:30 again Central Time. Thank you for watching and hopefully sharing with others. We are looking at listening, and I shared with you last Monday just this funny video of this kid saying over and over again, "Listen, Linda, listen. Listen, Linda, listen." And he was just trying to get out of trouble, but it just reminded me about how important it is for us to feel like people are hearing us, for us to be great listeners. And I believe I said last time I would kind of talk about listening and how we help people. And that listening is one of the greatest ways that we can help an individual. And we looked at being a great listener, and that listening is a skill. Nobody's got a gift of listening. You have a skill of listening. And because it's a skill, we can all get better at it. And when we listen, it's actually how counselors and individuals really help another person. Proverbs 20, verse 5 says that counsel is in the heart of a man. It's like deep water, and a man of understanding will draw it out. It's one of my favorite verses because what I have found is the best counselors on the planet aren't the greatest because they're so smart or because they have the greatest knowledge. Now, they need some understanding, they need some wisdom, but the greatest counselors are great counselors because they're great listeners, because they actually hear what the person is saying, and not just that, but what they're meaning by what they're saying. We may look at today, if we get to it, the three levels of listening. That's my heart. I hope to get to it. But I want to share again, when you listen to someone and you're listening well, you're fully engaged in the conversation. You're looking them in the eyes. You're leaning in. You're paying attention. You're not divided in your attention span. You're listening well. This is how you help people because now you're actually hearing what they're saying, not just it being divided and basically you're just listening to get through with their conversation so you can go on with your day or whatever. You're really listening to what that individual is saying. Now, listening is only one third of a three-part communication skill set. We will look at the other two as we go on, but listening is probably the one we have the least amount of experience with. And so I want to just share again the value we have when we listen to someone well. When we put away our phones, when we're not watching TV and trying to listen at the same time, when we're not looking at what other people are doing, but we're really engaged in the person who's talking to us. And we do this really well with children, and I don't know why we grow out of it. You know, when you're talking to a child, you intuitively know you have to listen. And so you get down on their level, you look them in the eyes, and you're really trying hard to hear what they're saying, especially when they're little and their words aren't said exactly the right way. They're calling spaghetti paschetti. You're listening really well because they're trying to communicate and you want to make sure that you're hearing what they are saying. I wish we would get better at that, that we would truly treat every individual as if we cared about what they had to say. That's the thing I have found the most profound to me about listening is that listening is actually how we show somebody we value them. When you listen to somebody, and I'm so blessed that all of you would be listening to me right now, because listening is how you communicate to somebody you actually value them, whether they understand that or not, whether you understand it or not. When certain politicians or certain people come on the TV or the radio, because you don't value them, you will put it on mute or you will change the channel. Why is that? You don't care what these people have to say. You don't value what they have to say. So you put it on mute or you change the channel. But when someone comes on that you really love, you turn the volume up, you tell other people to be quiet, you focus in on what's being said. And that's because you value them. Now, let me ask you, most people do not value a worm, so they don't talk to the worm. But I do, at least when I'm fishing. I put that worm on that hook and say, go catch me a big one. I know people who talk to their plants better than they talk to their family, to their husband, to their children, to their wife, because they value their plants so highly. I know individuals who talk to their animals, their dogs, their cats, with the same intent that they talk to human beings. Why is that? They value their pets. So, part of the way we help people when we listen to them is whether they actually understand it or not. When you fully engage in a conversation with them, you communicate value. You know, the scripture talks about suicide about 5 different times. And in the New Testament, it says when the prison doors were shaken and Paul and Barnabas were in jail, may have been Barnabas, may have been Silas, I don't remember. But the gates were opened, and the jailer who was supposed to keep them there, when he comes to his senses and he sees that the doors to the prisons have been opened, it says he drew his sword and thought to slay himself. He was going to commit suicide. And what Paul did is what you and I should do for anyone who is suicidal. He didn't say, read this book. He didn't say, listen to this song. He said, do thyself no harm. We are here. And one of the best ways you can help somebody, which is what psychologists and psychiatrists and all these different counselors do with people who are thinking of suicide, is they communicate value to that individual by listening to them. What is going on in your heart and in your life that you would be thinking about taking your life? And they choose to listen with ears to hear what that person has to say. And that's actually how you help that individual. Now, that's radical, but that's actually how you help your spouse. That's how you help your children. That's how you help your coworkers, by showing them the value of being a great listener. Now, I want to share quickly, and we may go into it in more depth later, I don't know, but there are 3 levels of listening. And most people never make it past level 1. And that's just because they haven't been taught. You know, we were taught how to add and subtract. We were taught how to do English. We were taught sociology. We were taught all these different things. But very few of us have been taught how to listen. And so, because we haven't been taught, we listen the way most of the people we're connected to listen, at level 1. And level 1 listening is when you listen for you. You're not actually listening for them or because you value them. You're listening for you. In other words, when they start talking, as soon as they bring up the subject of the ball games over the weekend or fishing, what they did over the weekend or whatever, you're already in your mind trying to think of what you know about that subject and how smart you are about that subject. Or maybe they're boring you to tears with their weekend story, and you're just waiting for them to be quiet so you can tell them how and what you did this weekend and how important that was and how valuable that was. Or maybe you did listen to them talking about the game, and then you are just waiting for them to be quiet so that you can tell them how you saw the game and what you thought about the game and how you feel. It's you. Most people listen at a level 1. And part of the reason I know that is because how often we interrupt individuals. Now, I've said it before, but I hope to turn this around with the people I'm connected to and the people I'm speaking to. When we interrupt somebody, we don't intentionally say this, but what we're doing is we're saying, would you please be quiet so I could tell you what I think is important? Now, again, that's very selfish, very prideful, and most of us do not understand how often we do this, but we don't actually listen well. We're not patient about our listening. We're not paying attention to what they're saying. We're already thinking about our answer. And so most of us listen at a level 1 because we've never been taught any better. Now, level 2 is when you're listening for them, when you're actually listening to the words they are saying. But you have to be intentional about this. You got to rein in your thoughts so that you're focused in on what that individual is saying. You're hearing the words that they are saying, and you're trying to articulate in your mind the story they're telling you. Now, words create pictures. And so when people are talking, it's actually creating pictures. Like if I said to you, I saw a dog on the way to work today. You don't see the letters DOG, you see a dog because words create pictures. And so when people are telling you a story, you're actually working on the picture that it's creating in your mind. And so you're hearing the words and they're creating a picture, but that's not necessarily the picture they're actually trying to paint. We'll talk about that later. So we need to listen well. And level 2 is when we're listening for them. We're hearing the words. Now, this is where it gets kind of tricky because words mean different things. Words have different emotional content. But here's the problem. I see it all the time when husband and wives are here for marital counseling. She will say, we never go out to eat anymore. Now, he heard the words of the facts of what she was saying. We never go out to eat anymore. And man, he is Johnny on the spot to correct that. That's not true. That's not true. Remember, we went out to eat 2 months ago when Burger King had that 2-for-1 sale. You and I know he heard the words, but he didn't hear her heart. And that's the level 3 that we all need to work on trying to get to, where we're actually not just hearing the words, but we're hearing the heart. As a Christian, we would call it discerning, being intuitive, understanding not just the words, but what is being said with the words. What she's actually saying is, I miss us going out when we used to sit across the table from one another and look into each other's eyes, and we talked for hours and couldn't wait till we could talk again. And now you barely say 5 words when you get home. She said, we never go out to eat anymore. And I often tell people in counseling there are 2 words we need to throw out of our marriage. One is never, and the other is always, because they're defensive words. But she didn't really mean we never go out. She meant we're not spending enough time together. So level 3 is when you're listening past the words and trying to hear the intent and the motive and what's behind the words. We will look at this a little bit deeper next Monday. It's time for me to go. Love you all so much. If you think this would help somebody you're connected to, would you click share and send it, please? Would you give me a thumbs up? By the way, next Monday I will share with you, I do have a YouTube channel. I'm fixing to do some new podcasts. Those are coming very, very soon. Looking forward to all the new additions to things. But for those people who don't and can't watch me on Facebook or don't have a Facebook page, I do have a YouTube page that actually I create this again on that. I just send it to the YouTube channel so they can watch what you've watched, only they can watch it on YouTube. Love you all so much. I want to say hi to a few folks. James, thank you so much. I love you. Jimmy, Jack Dean, familiar. Thank you so much. Jim Garner, Mary, love you all so much. Jimmy Jeter, you guys are a blessing. Look forward to seeing you next week. Love you all so much.